Are you ready for a great adventure? Today, on The World is Yours, 3 incredible destinations await us. We'll travel to Paris and visit the Louvre, one of the most important museums in the world. We'll cross the Seine River in an incredible trip through its waters and under its bridges in the Batobus, the bus that doubles as a boat. And we'll climb to the top of the most iconic building in Paris, the Eiffel Tower. Then we'll go to a true natural paradise, the exotic islands of Hawaii. There we'll discover the famous Hawaiian volcanoes, and we'll learn why Hawaii is the go-to destination for surfers and water sports lovers of all kinds. And if that wasn't enough, we will visit Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, where we'll visit the famous Ipanema and Copacabana beaches. We'll climb to the top of Corcovado Hill to embrace the Christ the Redeemer. And we'll experience the biggest party in all of Latin America, the Rio Carnival. The world is waiting, and the world is yours. Fasten your seatbelts. Let's go to Paris, the capital of France, also known as the City of Light. Paris is the most popular tourist destination in the world. More than 42 million tourists visit it every year. It has many of the world's most famous and admired monuments, such as the Eiffel Tower, the Cathedral of Notre Dame, and the Arc de Triomphe, as well as numerous famous museums. Speaking of museums, let's visit one of the most impressive in the world, the Louvre Museum. The Louvre Museum is housed in the Palais du Louvre, a 12th century fortress that was enlarged and renovated several times. Inaugurated at the end of the 18th century, the Louvre Museum is currently the most important museum in France and in the world. In 1989, a huge glass pyramid was built. It serves as an access door and nowadays an iconic structure, part of the museum and the city. To tour the Louvre correctly, it is important to keep in mind that the immense collection, more than 35,000 works of art on display, is organized in different departments: Oriental antiquities, Egyptian antiquities, Greek, Roman, and Etruscan antiquities, Louvre history and medieval Louvre paintings, sculptures, objects of art, graphic arts, and Islamic art. And of course, there are must-see. For example, Liberty Leading the People by Delacroix, The Winged Victory of Samothrace from ancient Greece, and La Gioconda by Leonardo da Vinci, better known as the Mona Lisa. Yes, this incredibly famous, smiling, or serious lady is at the Louvre. In conclusion, grab a map so you don't miss the important ones. If you only have one chance to visit a museum in your lifetime, it has to be the Louvre Museum. Once you're done with the museum and you walk out onto the streets of Paris, the history and architecture of this beautiful city may be overwhelming. So to ease that transition, why not take a tour on the waters of the Seine aboard the Batobus? In Paris, there are many ways to sail the waters of the Seine. But without a doubt, one of the most comfortable and original ways of doing so is using the Batobus, or the bus over water. The Batobus is a glass-covered boat that can hold about 200 passengers. The tour makes 8 stops in important tourist attraction areas on both banks of the river, including the Eiffel Tower. While sailing on the Batobus along the 13 kilometers of the Seine, you'll also see more than 30 bridges and walkways that cross it. From the oldest built in stone, the Pont Neuf, to the most modern ones. On board the Batobus, you can enjoy the wonderful views of the monumental buildings that border the most iconic river in Paris. Let's get off the Batobus at the Eiffel Tower, our next and most awaited stop on this trip through Paris. The Eiffel Tower is a 300-meter-high iron building that was created for the Paris Universal Exhibition of 1889. The tower was designed by Gustave Eiffel, and its construction lasted a little over 2 years. Initially, the tower was controversial. The artists considered it monstrous, and at the end of the exhibition, some expressed their desire to demolish it. Can you imagine Paris without the Eiffel Tower? Today, thanks to the rise of Paris as an international tourist destination, the Eiffel Tower is among the most popular monuments in the world, with more than 7 million visitors a year. To climb it, we use the elevator or the stairs. Although before choosing option number 2, you should know that there are 1,665 steps. So, wear some comfortable shoes. Any time is a good time to climb to the top of this architectural marvel, but there's no doubt that at sunset or at nighttime, the views are spectacular. You can see why Paris is called the City of Light. At night, the Eiffel Tower lights up with golden lights and glows for 5 minutes every hour. The tower illuminates the sky of Paris on the banks of the Seine. Normally, this is a spectacle you can only enjoy there, but today, you can enjoy it here, because the world is yours. We'll be right back, but first, let's test your world knowledge. The tallest mountain in the world is located in A. China, B. the Himalayas, C. Hawaii, D. Siberia. But before you answer, I'm not talking about the highest mountain in terms of elevation. I'm looking for the tallest mountain, measured from the very bottom to the very top. Here's a hint. The very bottom is way, way down. The answer coming up when we return to The World is Yours. We're back. Let's continue our adventure. But first, we need to answer our question. The tallest mountain in the world is located in A. China, B. the Himalayas, C. Hawaii, D. Siberia. Remember, I'm not talking about the highest mountain in terms of elevation. I'm looking for the tallest mountain, from the very bottom to the very top. Give up? If you answered C, Hawaii, you're right. It's true. The tallest mountain in our world is the Mauna Kea volcano. If measured from its base at the bottom of the ocean to the summit, it's more than 10,000 meters or 33,000 feet tall. A wonder of nature that's just one of the gifts of our next destination, Hawaii. When we hear Hawaii, we can't help but think of big waves, volcanoes, cliff jungles, flowers, beaches, and lots of sunshine. Hawaii is one of the 50 states of the United States of America, and Honolulu is its capital. Hawaii is composed of hundreds of islands spread over about 1,500 miles. At the southeastern end of the group of islands rest the main 8 islands, which are Ni'ihau, Kauai, Oahu, Molokai, Lanai, Kahului, Maui, and the island of Hawaii. Hawaii is by far the largest, also known as the Big Island. Hawaii is most famous for surfing and volcanoes. All the Hawaiian Islands were formed by volcanic eruptions that rose from the bottom of the sea, the source of lava, which geologists refer to as hotspots, are what make up the base of the islands today. The older islands have inactive volcanoes, while the newer ones have active ones, including the Kilauea Volcano on the island of Hawaii. It has been spitting lava since 1983. Visitors are allowed to take tours of the volcano. They get to see how the lava descends down the hillside just a few meters away and how those rivers of fire shape the earth and darken the sand of the island's beaches. The whole chain of islands is full of volcanoes, from the smallest islands to the Big Island, where we can visit the National Park of Volcanoes. The park is a natural paradise that runs through most of the island. It encompasses everything from small volcanoes, almost at ground level, to the highest volcano in the world, which you already know about, Mauna Kea. There are 3 ways to see and experience volcanoes: from the sky, flying above the mountains during volcanic eruptions, from the sea, or simply by walking close to them to feel all their majesty and power. Wow! It's incredible how small we seem beside these wonders of nature. The climate is warm all year long, and ocean temperatures range from 27.2 degrees Celsius, 81 degrees Fahrenheit in summer, to 24.4 degrees Celsius, 76 degrees Fahrenheit in winter. In addition to surfing, bodyboarding, and snorkeling, other popular water activities in Hawaii include scuba diving, parasailing, and kayaking. If you want to practice kayaking and you're in Kauai, a great spot to do it is at the Hanalei Bay near the north coast. It's best to go during the summer because the water is calmer. Kauai offers fun kayak adventures on the Wailua River, where you can get out into nature, explore some hidden treasures, and visit incredible waterfalls. Diving is another popular water activity in Hawaii. Hawaii is a perfect place for year-long diving because of its warm, tropical, clear waters. Divers get the chance to observe a variety of underwater animals, such as green turtles, sea urchins, tropical fish, rays, dolphins, and sharks. The coral reef is beautiful, and in certain areas, divers can explore wrecks, underwater tunnels, and caves. Apart from kayaking and snorkeling, there's much more to do in the waters of Hawaii, like jet skiing, scuba, windsurfing. But without a doubt, the most popular water sport in the islands of Hawaii is, you guessed it, surfing. And it's not only because of the huge waves or the steady crowds of surfers who visit Hawaii every year, but because surfing was born here in Hawaii. Yes, the Hawaiians are the original founders of surfing, which in Hawaiian is He'enalu. One of the 5 best beaches in the world for surfing is Waimea Beach. In 1957, Waimea Beach was the site for some of the very first big wave surfing. Famous surfers came from all over and dared to attempt these giant swells. It's time to move on to our next destination, but before we go, it's time to test your world knowledge. Which city used to have a soccer stadium with the largest seating capacity in the world? A. Rome. B. Barcelona. C. Rio de Janeiro. D. Berlin. The answer coming up when we return to The World is Yours. The adventure continues with The World is Yours. Okay, let's answer our question. Which city used to have a soccer stadium with the largest seating capacity in the world? Is it A. Rome, B. Barcelona, C. Rio de Janeiro, D. Berlin. If you guess C, you're right. The answer is Rio de Janeiro. The Maracanã Stadium in Rio de Janeiro was opened in 1950 to host that year's World Cup. It could hold an incredible capacity of up to 200,000 people. Over time, due to safety regulations, the stadium was redesigned for a more manageable capacity, but still can hold 78,838 soccer fans. Rio de Janeiro is the second most populated city in Brazil after Sao Paulo, with more than 6 million inhabitants. The city is known worldwide for its beautiful landscapes and symbolic cultural icons. It's also one of the main financial resource centers in the entire country. Rio de Janeiro is also known as the Marvelous City, and soon you'll see why. First, we're going to visit the beautiful and famous Ipanema and Copacabana beaches. Then, we're off to one of the 7 wonders of the modern world, Christ the Redeemer of Corcovado. And if that weren't enough, we'll enjoy the most famous and most visited carnival of all, the Rio Carnival. It's difficult to reach Brazil and not immediately think of its picturesque beaches. And if you're in Rio de Janeiro, the first place you think of is Ipanema Beach and Copacabana Beach. Ipanema is divided by postos, or stations, and although it's the same beach, each posto has its particular style and its own type of visitors. On the coast of Ipanema Beach, you'll find some of the most luxurious hotels in Rio, but you can also find cheap accommodations in the same neighborhood if you know where to look. The beach of Copacabana is without a doubt the most famous beach in Rio de Janeiro, and as far as tourist attractions go, it cannot be missed. The beach's famous promenade, known as the Orla de Copacabana, is recognizable anywhere in the world. At night, the lights at the beaches of Ipanema and Copacabana keep the fun going. Locals, known as cariocas, take advantage and practice their favorite sports until late into the night. Rio de Janeiro has roughly 90 beaches, but without a doubt, you can't leave without making stops at Ipanema and Copacabana. Beyond the beaches, Rio de Janeiro is home to a true cultural icon, famous all over the world, Christ the Redeemer of Corcovado. Christ the Redeemer, the Christ of Rio de Janeiro, or simply the Christ of Brazil, as some call it, is a statue to Jesus of Nazareth with open arms towards the city of Rio de Janeiro. Since 2007, this structure has been recognized as one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. Built in 1921 by French sculptor Paul Landowski, it stands 984 feet high and weighs 1,200 tons. Tourists come from all over the world to stand in awe of this majestic work of art. When we come back, we're heading to the most famous carnival in the whole world, the Rio Carnival. But before we do, let's test your world knowledge. Do you know how many people can fit at the Rio de Janeiro Sambadromo? A. 45,000. B. 90,000. C. 18,000. D. 12,000. The answer coming up when we return to The World is Yours. Welcome back, and welcome back to Rio de Janeiro. Before we head to the Carnival, let's see if you were able to answer our question. How many people can fit in the Rio de Janeiro Sambadromo? A. 45,000. B. 90,000. C. 18,000. D. 12,000. The correct answer is B, 90,000 people. Awesome, right? The Sambadromo is a large structure built in the center of the city, designed by the famous architect Oscar Niemeyer, and has stands for spectators who pack in on both sides of the street. The main event of the carnival season in Rio is the Parade of the Sambadromo, where samba schools and teams make their appearances after preparing a whole year to showcase their routines. The floats, costumes, and dancing are all part of the beautiful designs, fantasy, and fun that make the Rio Carnival the most famous in the world, bringing in over 1 million tourists a year. At the Carnival of Rio de Janeiro, joy, fun, and laughter reign for all. We've reached the end of today's journey. We traveled from Paris to Hawaii and to Rio de Janeiro. Remember, every day offers a chance for a new great adventure on The World is Yours.